Hello and welcome to this little video where today I'm going to be reading a short story called A Late Night Drink, which is actually taken from this book, my Sam Spallucci Bloodline Prologues and Epilogues book, which is a little companion book to my 2021 Sam Spallucci Bloodline, which is all werewolves and the like in Lancaster. But before I do that, please, if you could give me a quick like, and if you like the video at the end, perhaps give it a good subscribe as well. That'd be absolutely fantastic. But anyway, straight on. A late night drink. He knew that evening was going to be a bad one. Roger was no psychic, just your run-of-the-mill, simple, straight-laced barman. But anyone who does their job properly knows when things are going to go pear-shaped. This was one of those nights. First, there was the TV. It was one of those big widescreen jobs. The Plasmatron 2000s, the locals joked. The brewery had insisted on its presence. Our focus groups say that football is now a major player in the leisure industry. The memo had been worded. Great, Roger had thought as he had struggled to mount it to the wall, armed only with a rusty drill and a Phillips screwdriver. I wonder if hernias are major players too. But give it its due. Punters have come more often and drunk more steadily since the installation of the Plasmatron 2000, so Roger couldn't really complain too much until tonight. The thingy box had died. The black rectangle under the bar with the flashing lights and 3 antennae that connected the obscenely large television to a universe of football, rugby and other untold sporting delights. At least Roger surmised it had died. 1 minute, 22 overplayed blokes in shorts had been kicking a ball up and down an immaculate patch of grass. The next, well, some sort of horror film had come on. He tried changing the channel, but the damn film seemed to be on every single one, so yeah, the thingy box must have died. Not knowing what else to do, Roger had just left the film running. Perhaps, he thought to himself as he watched the movie, the thingy box is having a little kip. Like old man Gardner normally does after his 7th pint. It might wake up in a bit and start asking for peanuts. Truth be told, it was a rather weird movie. There was some guy in a mask dressed up as a wolfman. He was howling and screaming lots, so Roger had muted the sound. Now, Roger was no Philistine. He knew in his heart of hearts that sure, this must be a classic. It was the Wolfman. And after all, he was up there with Dracula and Frankenstein. However, he reckoned, that this must be some weird-ass modern adaptation. For starters, it's in colour, not black and white. Second, it just seems to be a variation of the same shot of this guy howling and screaming as he changed from human to wolf. It was the same effect over and over, set in different locations. True, he had to hand it to the guys doing all the CGI. It looked damn realistic. Especially that weird green stuff that kept oozing out of him. Whatever that was supposed to be. But it felt somewhat monotonous. It reminded him of the time his sister's lad had made that video for his BTEC film studies course about the life of a dandelion. Roger sighed. There's no accounting for taste these days. Plus, at the end of the day, horror flicks don't sell beers as well as footy. As a result, there were just the 3 hardened regs in, drinking until they inevitably dropped. Only tonight, they weren't just drinking. They're also bitching. And guess what about? Yeah, the lack of football. Roger wouldn't have minded so much, but these guys never even watched the blessed thing. All night long, they just sit and sup. But no, tonight it was sip, sup, bitch. Sip, sup, sit, sup, bitch. Just the 3 of them. That was until the second problem walked in. He was young and wet. Yeah, Roger observed very wet. It was pissing it down that night. Had been for about the last half hour. He felt kind of sorry for the kid. He must have been cold and drenched. But the law was the law, and he did not want his ass kicked when the police took his licence away. Knowing that the kid must be underage, he asked for ID. Yeah. He was sure he had asked for ID. Must have done. You don't need to see my identification. I've already heard that before. It's going to bug him all night. Phil? TV? Anyway, he asked the kid what he wanted to drink. The kid fixed his blue eyes on a bottle of Jack Daniels and nodded. The bottle, please. Roger got it down off the shelf and set it down with a tumbler. Then he had the strangest feeling that the kid had already paid him. So he hovered about a bit, smiling a slightly stupid smile, before deciding it would be his best to busy himself polishing some glasses over by his regulars. Hey, Roger, where's the bloody footy then? You know the thingy box is screwed, John. I've told you that twice already. Oh, muttered the drinker, returning to his pint. Thingy box, pondered the guy next to him, holding a glass of Guinness halfway up to his mouth. I'm sure my son has one of those. John looked at him. Your son? I never knew you were rich, mate. Who gives a kid a thingy box? The Guinness drinker shook his head. It's only a little thing. Use it with those plastic monsters he's got. Digi thingies or something they're called. You know the ones. John and the other drinker just looked at him blankly. Didn't know you could use it with the TV, though. Mind you, I never tried. Pete, said the third drinker. You're pissed. Screw you, mate, hit back Pete. When will it be fixed, Roger? Roger shrugged. So for now it's old Fuzzface in the mask up there, John commented. Yep, old Fuzzface. Pete looked at the flick on the box and raised his pint of Guinness. God bless him and all who's sailing him. Gotta feel sorry for him, I suppose, said Mike. Pete, and why is that then? Well, it ain't his fault, he's an ugly bugger. They all chuckled. And there's me thinking he just didn't shave this morning. Pete was actually going a bit red in the face now. From laughter or alcohol? It was hard to tell. Nah, seriously, continued Mike. I've seen this before. It was a curse or something. Turn him into old Wolfie up there. Poor fella can't help but kill people. He don't want to do it, he just does, you know. Roger was now wiping up various spills from gesticulated glasses and noticed that the young lad, who had already drunk about half the Jack Daniels bottle, was listening quite intently to the discussion, even though he was still facing away. There was just the odd sidelong glance that only barman could notice. John regarded the wolfman with some scepticism. Don't look that hard to me. Bet I could teach him a thing or two. Spends so much time ravaging virgins, but he doesn't even know the Queensberry rules. At this, he set his near-empty glass down on the bar, got up off his stool and, albeit rather unsteadily, I'd teach him a thing or two. Then, rolling his sleeves up, he proceeded to shadowbox around the bar. His drunken companions are now in hysterics at the sight of their drunken friend doing a very bad impression of Ali or Fury. But even through the raucous laughter, a quiet voice stopped them dead. You would have been dead before you got down off your stool. The laughing stuttered to a halt. The drinkers and Roger turned to look at the boy. He had just downed another bourbon and was looking straight ahead into the mirror behind the bar. Excuse me? John wasn't even sure that it was the boy who had spoken, but it had to be. Apart from Roger and the three of them, there's no one else in the bar. The boy turned on the bar stool and levelled his pale blue eyes at them. By the time you had moved to put your first foot down on the floor, a werewolf would have torn your throat open and broken your backbone, immobilising you. He would then proceed to drag you away before ripping your guts open, feeding on your intestines and stomach first, before moving on to your other organs. And don't believe it's a mercy killing either. They like you to suffer. You'll feel every last little bite as you're consumed mouthful by mouthful, bit by bit. The three regulars normally had an answer for everything, but to this, they had none. Mike began to open his mouth, but the boy cut in, and don't believe that crap about a curse. I've not yet met a werewolf who hasn't loved it. They thrive on the power. It consumes them and drives them on. They give in to the dark side of their soul and let it push them onwards and upwards to places you could never even dream of travelling. They never fight the all-consuming rage. They never mourn those they murder. They just devour anyone who stands in their way. Roger felt he must do something. Now, come on, lad, he said. The guy's only just enjoying a pint and the movie. There's no need to get all serious like that, is there? But when he looked into those blue eyes, he knew that this was the time to get serious. Very serious indeed. They expected more. They really expected him to say more. Roger, cloth in hand, Mike and Pete with their pint glasses, John with his sleeves rolled up to his elbows. But he didn't. He shook his head, picked up the half-empty bottle of bourbon, and walked back out into the rainy night. John turned and sat back down on his stool. The four of them looked at each other. Then the group enlightenment seemed to spread across their faces. Pete voiced the group's thought. Did he say he'd met a werewolf? Hope you enjoyed it. Please, again, quick like, quick subscribe. Any more details? They're over at my website, aschambers.co.uk. Take care. Keep looking for what lurks in the shadows. Bye-bye now.